All right. Hello, 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 hello. Hey, everybody. Listen. Oh my God. Okay. We are going to be talking about something we talked about previously, which is perfectionism. But y'all, on today's show, I'm going to be showing you how to use my favorite tool, one of my favorite tools in the whole wide world, which is positive psychology, and how to use that to overcome perfectionism. It is going to be so, so good. You just wait right after this. Hey y'all. Okay, listen. So if you're joining me live for the Dr. Kiki Ramsey show, please type your name and where you're joining me from in the comments. I'd love to give you a shout out on today's show as we get into this topic of positive psychology and perfectionism again. Okay, so if you listen to one of my last episodes on overcoming perfectionism, y'all were loud and clear that we out here struggling to be perfect. It amazes me. And it's, it doesn't amaze me because I do know as a person myself who likes things to be right, we love things to look perfect, to be perfect, to have no flaws. But y'all, it's not possible. Nobody is perfect. As a matter of fact, it is your imperfections who make you who you really are, right? Hi, Dr. Myra. Thank you so much for joining from Maryland, oh, from Virginia. Awesome. So it's our imperfections that make us like awesome. So the interesting thing is this, right? What I've learned throughout my career as being a coach, being a speaker, being a positive psychologist, all of that. What I've learned throughout my career is that when I've tried to be perfect, when I've tried to show up in my life without any flaws, I've not resonated with people because people can't see themselves in me, right? And people are people. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect. So the people who actually show up and say, you know what? I messed up. Like I didn't get that thing right. I made a mistake. Those are the people who we're most attracted to because we see that they are human, right? They are absolutely human. And so that to me makes the difference in us showing up in our lives in terms of being perfect or not perfect, right? So I try to make sure that I acknowledge my mistakes when I make them, and I make them, right? I make them often. But I think acknowledging our mistakes are one of the things that help us when we do make those mistakes. And it took me a long time to start acknowledging them and acknowledging that I wasn't perfect, right? Acknowledging that I'm only human and that I make mistakes. And so, if you remember from our last episode, perfectionism really means that you have this propensity to show up flawless, meaning you do not give yourself any latitude to make mistakes, and nor do you give other people latitude to make mistakes. And let me just get into that real quick. I think that's such an important distinction when it comes to perfectionism. Most people who deal with perfectionism don't give themselves latitude to show up as human, and they don't give other people. So if you're a perfectionism, I want you, if you're a perfectionist or you have perfectionism tendencies, which is what we talked about last time, instead of labeling ourselves perfectionists, let's say we got perfectionism tendencies, right? If you're a person who has these tendencies, think about how you show up for other people, right? Think about how you show up for other people and how people show up for you. Do you expect nothing but flawlessness from other people? Chances are you are absolutely correct, right? Chances are you're right. You expect flawlessness from other people. And that can be very difficult for people to then accept you and be near you and be around you, right? So I want you to just really think about your really close relationships and what people have told you about yourself and how you show up to them. If you are a perfectionist, chances are you won't accept inflexibility with other people, and that's hard. I can remember in my own life when I was always showing up and trying to show up as perfect, like I had to be perfect. And it was very hard on my relationship with my husband because I also didn't allow him to make mistakes either. Right? Like, and y'all know if you've been married or in a committed relationship for any amount of time, that it's very difficult to hold somebody else, because number one, you can't control anybody's actions. But when you hold somebody else to such a very high standard that you can't even acquiesce to, it's very difficult, and it makes your relationships harder. And because I was holding myself at such a high standards that I couldn't make a mistake, that meant that my husband Jamil couldn't make a mistake, and that was difficult. That was very, very difficult on our relationship together. And I had to learn how to be more flexible first with myself before I could even be more flexible with him. Because a lot of times when we would have conversations about it, I couldn't reconcile being more flexible with him because I first couldn't reconcile being more flexible with myself, right? I couldn't reconcile that. And so I had to really come to a place where I realized that making mistakes and being imperfect was a beautiful place to be. And I resolved that I was going to learn lessons from that space so that I could go out and eventually now I teach it. But at the time, I just wanted to be better. I wanted to feel better. Like these things being perfect, and when you're not, it don't feel good because you beat yourself up. But being a positive psychologist, I've learned tools that absolutely help me learn how to show up in all my imperfectionisms and be okay with it. Because I think that's what we all have to do. We have to show up being imperfect, as we are, and be okay with it because we are. Whether you like it or not, you ain't perfect. I'm probably sure I'm not the first person that told you that, but I want to share this with you because to strive for perfectionism is to strive for stress. Ooh, that's a good one. Y'all heard it here first, right? I mean, it's the truth. To strive for perfectionism means you're striving for stress because trying to be perfect is only going to create more stress in your life. But there's a tool, and it's called positive psychology. Now, most of y'all know I'm a positive psychologist, but some of y'all don't really know what positive psychology really means. You might have heard the term before in your life, and chances are and you've heard some terms that are around positive psychology, but you might have not heard the term positive psychology. So, positive psychology is truly and simply what goes right with you. It is you showing up in the world from a place of strength, right? It is focusing on strengths versus only focusing on weaknesses. So here's the thing, right? And this is when I found positive psychology, y'all, I fell in love all over again, right? Because so many of us, we show up and the only thing we need to work on and the only thing we think we need to work on are our weaknesses. But positive psychology says, why not focus on strengths as much as you do weaknesses? And if you think about psychology as a whole, right? When you think about psychology, you think about depression, anxiety, all of these mental health illnesses, right? That's psychology. Well, the opposite of psychology is positive psychology, and that's the focus on strengths, the focus on positive emotions, all of those things, right? And so that's why I love it. So you probably heard terms like the growth mindset, happiness, the science of happiness, thriving, flourishing. All those terms are rooted in positive psychology, and so you already knew, girl. You already knew. But I'm just sharing that with you today. And so when I decided to embark upon my journey of really learning more about positive psychology and how to utilize positive psychology, I went back to school and I got a master's in positive psychology coaching from Life University in Atlanta, Georgia, whoop, whoop, which is my alma mater. And now I'm so blessed and fortunate to teach in the program. So I'm a professor at Life University in the Master's of Positive Psychology program. And it's one of the best positions I've ever had, because number one, I get to teach people positive psychology, and I also get to teach students coaching, which is my other most favorite tool in the whole wide world, right? So that's positive psychology. And so when I was thinking about perfectionism and the Dr. Kiki Ramsey show that we had a couple weeks ago, I was like, how can we back this up? Me and my assistant Nicole was talking about it, and I was like, oh, using positive psychology to overcome perfectionism. This is a beautiful way to teach people how to overcome something that may be holding them back. And so now that you know a little bit about positive psychology, let's talk about how you can utilize it to overcome perfectionism. As we said, perfectionism is that thing that really shows up in you, that trait that shows up in you that makes you feel like you can only be flawless, right? You can't make mistakes. But positive psychology says, hey, girl, you have strengths. How can you use those? And so let's talk about it. So the first thing I want to talk about is really identifying the first way that you can use positive psychology to overcome perfectionism is to identify and utilize your strengths. So let me just ask you a question. And if you're live with me, you can drop it in the chat. And if you listen to this on your local podcast station, because we're on them all, you can just think about this in your head. But what are your strengths? What are you good at? Right? Not what do you need to work on, right? Because that's what we focus on the most. But I want to know, what are you good at? Okay. So here's the thing. I'm great at communication. Hey, Diamond, thank you for joining. I'm excellent at communicating. That's what I'm good at. You're listening to me here on the Dr. Kiki Ramsey show. I do a lot of speaking engagements. I talk to my kids and my husband at home. Like, just communication is my jam. Speaking to people, speaking life into people is what I am absolutely meant and made and purpose for in my whole entire life, right? And I know that. And so what I do is I now try to utilize that strength every single day to help me and to help other people. Right? So if you are trying to be a perfectionist in your life and you have some issues with, like, you won't put out a project or you won't go for a promotion, but say your superpower, I love calling it superpower, which is your strength. Say your superpower is communication. Even if you put that thing out there, you can talk about it beautifully, right? Like say for instance, it's a promotion. When you can communicate, you can write out so well why a promotion is due to you, why you are due for a promotion, why you deserve, why you are worthy of a promotion. If communication is your superpower, you can defend and persuade your boss on why you are worthy and you deserve a promotion in your life. That's how you use your strengths. That's how you use your superpower to overcome perfectionism. Because on one hand, you might say, well, oh my God, I want a promotion, but I'm scared to put it out there. I'm scared of what my boss will say. This, I've written it up, but it's got to be absolutely perfect. It's got to be, I got to have crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's, all those things. Stop it. You know that you are amazing at communication. This is a strength of yours. Turn in the promotion paperwork, right? Turn it in, because you have a strength of communication. So Myra, you said encouraging and collaboration. Those are beautiful, beautiful strengths. You can use them in any setting to overcome any kind of thing that you're dealing with. Perfectionism. I always say, like, when you can collaborate with people, when you are so good at saying, hey, you know what? Let's do this and do this. And you are really collaborating with people, that can take you so far, right? When you know that you're good at that, it shouldn't stop you cold when it comes to comes to perfectionism. Don't get stuck in these little places, right? I call them little places because a lot of times perfectionism has us stuck in places that we know we don't need to be and that we shouldn't be, but it keeps us there, and it keeps us from the broader aspects of life where there's so many things for us to do out here, but we stuck in this little narrow space because we can't let go of being perfect. Right. So what I want you to do is really want you to understand your strengths. Now, I know some of us can just name off some strengths that we have, right? But there are some really great tools to help you understand your strengths. And some of them are paid, some of them are free. One of the free tools that I love is called the VIA, the VIA Character Strengths Assessment. So I'll say it again, the VIA Character Strengths Assessment. The VIA Character Strengths Assessment is an assessment that I use all the time. I use it for my clients. I use it for family. I use it all the time because it helps us understand our character strengths. And let me just tell you about character. Y'all know it. We all got skills. We all have skills. We all have strengths, but our skills can get us to the top, but it's our character that keeps us there, right? And so you can see all these stories going on in the news and in the media about how people are falling, meaning when I say how they're, making mistakes, but we all can make mistakes, but how they continuously make the same mistakes over and over again, which causes them, they lose money. Sometimes they lose friends and family. They lose endorsements. Just all these things. It's because their character is flawed, right? In some place, their character is flawed. But we all have character strengths. And on the VIA Character Strengths Assessment, we have 24. And what this survey does, this assessment does for you, is it kind of ranks your character strengths from the highest to the 24th, right? They're all strengths, but then they're ranked from the highest to the lowest, right? So you could be high in one, but low in the other, but it's still a strength of yours. And so, like for me, my top VIA character strength is zest. Y'all know me. I'm going to show up zesty everywhere I go. And that means energy, vitality, being alive. It is just who I am. It is a strength of mine. If I show up to the Dr. Kiki Ramsey show and I'm like, hey, y'all, welcome to the Dr. Kiki Ramsey show, where you create your own happiness. Y'all gonna be like, what is wrong with her? Just know there's something wrong with me, right? If I show up that way, because my strength is zest, being alive, being vibrant. That is who I am. That is a strength of mine, right? And that's a character strength of mine. It really has taken me far, far in my life. Another character strength of mine is spirituality. I believe in God. Like Jesus is that's my number one. He's my homeboy, right? I'm God's girl, right? Like I believe in that. And if you follow me, then you know that too. And I believe that I am nothing without him, and I can't do a lot of things that I've been able to do in my life without God, right? So you know that about me if you've been following me for any period of time. And I use that as fuel for the things that I do and I want to do in my life, right? And so I love the VIA Character Strengths Assessment because it gives you a really good readout on your character strengths. Now, the good thing about the VIA Character Strength Assessment is it's free. So you can Google VIA Character Strengths Assessment and you can take that for free. But I also love the Clifton StrengthsFinder, which is not free, but it's such a really, really good assessment to take when you want to know your strengths. And so I love both of these. But so the VIA and the Clifton Strengths Assessment, this Clifton StrengthsFinder, And I think I even got a book on the Clifton StrengthsFinder as well, right? So these are two assessments that you can take that are going to give you knowledge, share the knowledge of what your strengths are. And then there are some in-depth reports that you can actually purchase as well if you want to, with either one of those, that really digs down into each one of your strengths and gives you a really deep understanding of how to use them and what they should show up like for you in your life, or what they've probably already been showing up for you in your life, so that you can focus on continuing to utilize them, right? So I think it's one thing to know, but it's another to utilize, right? My goal is to show up from a place of strength every single day. And when I find myself not showing up from a strength, I try to pull back, and then I try to figure out what my next steps are, right? Like a lot of things I may not be good at. Like I have an assistant, her name is Nicole. She is absolutely phenomenal. Hey, Nicole. And she's good at all the things that she does, like all the admin stuff, all the charts, just all of those things. And so when I find myself starting to edge over into her category because I need to get something done or something like that, I will pull myself back and be like, girl, you know that ain't your strength. Let Nicole do that thing, right? And I'm not saying everybody has a Nicole, but I do think that if you can get yourself to a place where you can hire for your weaknesses, that's what I live for, right? Like I utilize my strengths and I hire for my weaknesses, right? And I think that is a beautiful place for us all to be able to be. And there's a lot of ways that you can hire for your weaknesses. You can even barter for your weaknesses for somebody else where you're strong at, somebody else where you're weak at, somebody else may be strong, and you might do a bartering system, right? Or you may go on a website called like Fiverr.com, where you can get some things done that may not be your strength for a relatively low fee, right? I don't anymore try to do things that I'm not great at, right? It's so interesting. I have sister locks. And so if you're listening to me on audio, right, you won't see me, but I have sister locks. If you're watching me now, you see me. And people will say, oh my God, your hair is so beautiful. Do you do your own hair? No. Absolutely not. My daughter, Mackenzie, has sister locks as well. They say, do you do her hair? No. Thanks to Keisha, our loctician. We don't do our own hair because guess what? It is not my strength, right? Could I, if I wanted to, y'all, we can do anything we put our mind to. If I took the time to sit to learn how to do my hair, it's called retightening, to retie my hair, then absolutely I can do my hair. But number one, I don't have the interest. Number two, I don't have the time. Number three, I don't have the energy. Let me go back to number three, too. I don't have the time. I don't want to, right? Like, and I'm not good at it. Like, it's not my strength. And so I believe in paying people for what they're strong at doing. I save my time because when I'm sitting getting my hair done, I have my whole office in tow. I'm doing my work. I got my laptop. I'm taking calls. Of course, I ain't on video, but I'm doing what I need to do while I'm getting my hair done. Y'all, we got to walk in our strengths. We absolutely do. Okay, so the next one I really want to say is I want us to practice a growth mindset. Some of you probably heard the term growth mindset, but this is how you can overcome perfectionism, because when you have the growth mindset, it can overcome almost anything, right? So the growth mindset is that you literally believe that you can, that you can do certain things versus a fixed mindset. So fixed mindset says, I'm pretty much fixed. I can't grow. I can't learn how to do these things. Fixed mindset is that person that says, well, that's the way I've always done it. So, right? Like you've heard people who say that. That's just the way I am. So all they're saying is, I'm not willing to change. I'm not willing to do it a different way. I'm not willing to even consider that it can be done in a different way. That's what that means, right? When you say statements like that, or when you hear people say, it's always been done this way, that's the way it's going to continue to be done. I've always done it this way. That's the way I'm going to continue to do it. That is absolutely a fixed mindset. But a growth mindset says, huh, there's probably other ways to do this. Let me try to figure out. I think I can probably figure out another way to do this, right? Like that is a growth mindset. And a growth mindset says also, I might not know how to do it now, but if I just learn or I can take the time to learn, then I can get it done. That's a growth mindset. And you have to have that kind of mindset throughout your life if you want to overcome perfectionism and just challenges along your way. I'll give you an example. Before I got my PhD, I knew I was going to go back to school and get my PhD. And I needed, in order to get into a certain program that I wanted to get into, I needed to take statistics prior to getting into this program. And not just take statistics, y'all. I needed to take statistics and get a really high passing grade in that class. And so I embarked upon this statistics class. And y'all, I would always profess that I'm not really good at math. And I also stopped saying that, especially after this class, that I'm not good at math. The only reason why we're not necessarily great at something is because we don't practice it, right? And I never put the effort, time, or energy into practicing math and to really being, good at it. You may or may not want to be good at math. It's okay, right? Like you may or may not want to be great at something, and that's okay. But this was hindering me from getting into the program that I wanted to get into to do my PhD. So I needed the class. And so I embarked upon the class. And at the same time, I read the book Growth Mindset by Cal Dweck. And it changed my life. It changed how I showed up for that class because I read that when I kept on saying, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at math, that's me saying, I'm not going to put the time or energy into practicing these math problems or these statistics problems in order for me to pass this class and get good. That's me saying that. But if I stop saying that and speaking that into existence and start saying, you know what? I might not understand this, but if I practice more, if I put more time and effort into it, I bet you I can get it. Y'all, it changed my life. I literally practice statistics too. I started to actually understand it, right? And I ended up ultimately getting a B out of that class. And I was happy with that, right? I was happy with that. And this is coming from a person who used to say, I'm not good at math all the time and not ever getting really good grades on any math tests or anything related to math, to a person who kind of got such good grades into statistics and went on to get my PhD and having to take another stats class as well while I was in the PhD that I actually completed. So I say that to you to say, thank you, Dr. Jenny Parker. I say this to you to say that if you practice a growth mindset throughout your life, it can change your entire life. I liken the growth mindset to the abundance mindset, right? Because I have an abundance, and I've worked on this over years. And let me just say this: it's still a work in progress because I'll say certain things, and I'm like, you can't do that, or I can't do that, and I'm like, wait a minute, but why? But why can I not do that? Right? Like a girlfriend of mine, she just one of my best friends, she just went on a trip to India. So she's in India right now doing research. And we were talking as she was heading out for her flight the other day. And we were talking about business class, first class, all of that. And she was like, she said something to the tune of, I said, we should go somewhere else and you do this more often. She's like, yeah, I want to. But she's like, flying business class? I can't fly business class all the time. And I'm like, why not? Like, if that's, to me, it's an abundance mindset. I'm not talking about how you spend your money, right? I'm talking about really cultivating a business, an abundance and a growth mindset. If you desire to be in a place where you can fly business class or first class all the time, speak that into existence, right? Speak that thing. It ain't doing you no good to say, I can't do that, I can't do that. You need to speak as if, right? Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Oh my God, Dr. Jenny Parker, that is in the Bible. I think that's well, let me not start quoting Bible, maybe Proverbs. I don't know. You can help me out. Dr. Jenny more because I know you all up in the Bible. But it's the truth. It is in the power of the tongue, and how we speak really does affect where we're going, which is the third thing that I want to share with you is we have to practice positive self-talk. And this also helps us overcome the perfectionism, right? Like perfectionism, like trying to work in this whole thing of being perfection. Oh, that's right. That was in Proverbs 18 and 21. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that. When we speak, the way we speak about our life, about ourselves, about our situations, it truly does matter, right? And I've had to practice this over years when it comes to money, right? I grew up with a very poverty mindset because of the way I grew up. Most of you know, I grew up with a mom who was addicted to drugs, and that was really difficult because half the time we never had money. When we did have money, it went really, really fast. When I had money, it went fast. And so I was always told that money doesn't grow on trees. And that, I was always taught that money was a scarcity, right? Money was, it was something that was a scarcity. You only had a limited amount of money, and it was a scarcity. So much so, and y'all, I'm digging in, and I'm kind of telling y'all some of the processes that I went through to overcome my money blocks. It was so bad, y'all, that when I got married to Jamil, of course, now we got two incomes in the household. When I got married to Jamil, I saw money in the house account, and I'm like, oh my God, there's money in the house. Like, we got to spend it. We got to spend it before somebody come get it. Who's supposed to come get it, y'all? Like, oh my God, it was so bad. And here's where that came from. Every time I used to have money, a lot of times, you would get money from relatives, or my mom would even give me money. Sometimes I was a saver. When I first started off, I was a saver, but because of her addiction and just how we lived in poverty a lot, she would come back and borrow the money from me. So if I had the money still saved, she would always come back and borrow it from me. And y'all, I'm talking about Lucy. That's my mom. I love her to death. She's no longer with us anymore. But she taught me a lot of lessons, some that I had to overcome, some that was good. This is one that I had to overcome. And so because she had to come, she would always come back and take the money away. I started spending the money right away because of my fear of her coming and take it away. That followed me into marriage. And so when I got with my husband, I was like, oh my God, there's money in the house account. And so it's going to get taken away. So we better spend it so that we don't have any. So for years, I would always make sure that by the end of the month, we had no money because there was bills, there was something that needed to take the money. And I had to break that cycle. And I mean, it was so much work that I had to do. Beautiful thing is me and my husband married for 20 years. As of August the 16th, whoop, whoop, go us. And I've broken the cycle, but I had to then speak this into existence. And so some of the things I would tell myself is money is attracted to me. There is more money where that came from, right? Like soon as money leaves my account, money is going to reappear because money, say I have the gifts and talents that allow people to pay me for, right? Like I had to start saying these things to myself, and that's an abundance mindset. That is also practicing positive self-talk, right? And that's how I approach things that I want in my life, like in terms of abundance, right? So I told my friend, I was like, girl, if you want to fly for first class to India or anywhere else, then do that. Let's figure out how you do that. Let's speak that into existence. I can't, shouldn't be it. How can I should be the phrase that we actually talk about, right? And so for me, it's very important for us to really think about that when we are focused and rooted in perfectionism, is to really talk ourselves out of that way of thinking with positive self-talk, because we all have it. And to be honest with you, we are some of our own worst enemies. We really will tap in and we will go so hard on ourselves versus what anybody else will ever say about us. I know for a fact, my husband tells me, he was like, girl, You don't even realize all the things that you've done. Not to mention the things that I go hard on myself with, but just the things that I've done in the industry, how I've in some of the most powerful corporations in America, how I'm coaching some of the top CEOs of companies. These are things that I don't talk about on social media or anything like that. But these are things that I've done, but I don't really talk about it for whatever reason, right? Because I don't think that we have to talk about everything that we do. But I also need to realize that when I'm also then putting myself down for making a mistake or not showing up the way that I wanted to show up in a situation. And I hope I'm talking to somebody, because this is not just for me, it's for you too. You have done amazing things in your life and your career, but you still beat yourself up for the little small things. The little things are the things that we beat ourselves up when we've done, we done climbed Mount Everest over here, but we dropped the peanut on the floor and it got stuck in the vacuum cleaner and we beating ourselves up. Come on, y'all. We got to do better than that for ourselves. We owe it to ourselves, number one, because I feel like self is number one. Because y'all know I'm talking all about work-life harmony. How can you lift other people up in the world, but put yourself down at the same time? You can't do that, right? And I realized that for myself, like I want to be somebody that's influential in other people's lives, but I can't even uplift my own self when I need it. That ain't right. So start with yourself first. Put your oxygen mask on first. Stop trying to be perfect for for yourself and for everybody else, because what we want is you, and we want the real you, flaws and all. All right. All right, so I hope that this was helpful, y'all. Like I love coming to y'all with these topics, because these topics are from people who are reaching out to me every single day. I just got an email this morning from a potential client who I'm gonna be having a call with later on about how to manage being a new mom and being an employee in one of the top law firms here in Atlanta, Georgia, and just really how to manage all that without being stressed out and breaking herself down. Like, I live for these, because we got to realize that we're only human. And I'm going to speak it to you again. You're only human, and you do not have to be perfect. That is not what the world requires of you, and that is not what you require of yourself. And it's certainly not what God requires of us, right? You don't have to be perfect before you enter the church. Like, you don't have to be saved before you go to church. You don't. You go and get the word of God, right? And you don't have to be perfect before you enter into a space where you feel worthy. You are worthy just because. So I hope that this helped. I love y'all. Drop me some notes, some lines and stuff like that. If this resonated with you, please share it. The Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show is on all of your podcast channels, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all of that. So you can get this on the replay, and you can also get it here on whatever social media channel that you're watching me on. If you are a woman professional who absolutely needs a supportive community of women who really want to learn how to balance their life and work and be harmonized, I say, join us over in the Happy Women Lead Academy. You can go to happywomenlead.com and join us there. And otherwise, share this with somebody else. I can't wait to talk to y'all next time.